When an ADGM foundation is used for asset protection or succession planning, most attention goes to the setup cost. The ongoing cost is often overlooked. Yet, the structure must remain compliant, maintain governance, and interact with banks each year. If these costs are not planned properly, the foundation may become difficult to maintain over time. My name is Shiraz Wahid and I'm the co-founder at Lepidus Wealth. And in this video, I'm going to explain the full cost of ADGM Foundation, including the government fee, registered office cost, compliance support, governance expenses, and realistic annual range that you should expect when the structure is properly maintained. Before looking at individual cost, it is important to understand that there is no single fixed price. The cost of an ADGM foundation depends on governance, number of beneficiaries, complexity of asset, and how actively the structure is used. A passive holding foundation will operate differently from a multi-jurisdictional succession structure with professional oversight. ADGM is a regulated financial center. Foundations established within ADGM are structured legal entities, not informal holding arrangements. Because of this, governance and compliance obligation continues after setup. These obligations create credibility with banks and counterparties, but they also create recurring operational cost. An ADGM foundation is subject to regulatory fee that keeps the entity in good standing. These charges apply regardless of the size of the foundation or the value of the assets held, and while they are not the largest component of the cost, they form the baseline annual obligation. The first component is the annual license renewal, which typically falls in the range of approximately $300 to $400 per year, depending on the filing type. This payment keeps the foundation active on the registry. If the license is not renewed, the foundation may fall out of good standing, which can create issues with banks, counterparties, and governance decisions. In addition, data protection registrations may apply depending on whether the foundation processes personal data within ADGM. Where applicable, the notification fee typically falls around $300 to $500 with an annual renewal in a similar range. Some passive holding foundations may not require this, but structures with multiple beneficiaries or administrative activity often do. These regulatory charges are relatively modest, but they reflect the regulated nature of ADGM foundations and contribute to the legal credibility of the structure. Every ADGM foundation must maintain a registered office within ADGM. This is the official legal address of the foundation where statutory records are maintained and regulatory correspondence is handled. And it cannot be an informal address or mailbox. Most foundations appoint a licensed corporate service provider to facilitate this registered office address. The provider typically handles document retention, regulatory communication, and administrative coordination when updates are required. The annual cost of a registered office is usually in the range of $2,000 to $3,000. The variation depends on the level of support. Some providers offer only the address, while others include administrative handling services. The requirement ensures the foundation maintains a real presence within the jurisdiction and improve banking credibility, as financial institutions expect structured entities to have proper registered offices. After the foundation is set up, it must remain compliant. These includes maintaining registers, updating beneficiary records, documenting decisions, and ensuring regulatory filings are completed within required timelines. For this reason, most ADGM foundations appoints a compliance provider. This role is responsible for monitoring obligations and keeping structure operational. Without this layer, even small changes may become difficult to implement. The annual cost for compliance support typically ranges between $1,500 to $2,500 depending on the complexity. A simple holding foundation with limited activity usually sits at the lower end, while structure with multiple beneficiaries or cross-border elements typically sits towards the higher end. Compliance supports administrative requirements as well as ensures that the foundation remains operational over time. Governance is one of the most important components of a foundation. An ADGM foundation must have council members responsible for oversight and decision-making, acting according to the charter and in the interest of the beneficiaries. In some structures, founders and family members act as the council member. In more formal arrangements, professional council members are appointed to provide independence, continuity, and credibility. When professional council members are appointed, annual cost typically starts around $4,000 to $5,000 depending on involvement, number of meetings, and complexity of assets. This is often one of the larger annual costs, but it is also what gives the foundation the governance strength. Service provider and ADGM are required to periodically review client information. This includes passport verification, beneficiary updates, and source of funds documentation. Annual KYC compliance review costs typically between the range of of $800 to $1,200 US. The amount depends on the number of related parties and jurisdictions involved. These reviews ensure records remain updated. Outdated compliance documentation can create transaction delays or operational restrictions. Maintaining updated information helps keep the foundation bankable. Now, most private foundations do not require mandatory audits. However, certain situations may require financial review. This may apply when the foundation holds operating companies, interact with regulated counterparties, or adapts internal governance policies. When an audit is required, the cost typically starts between $2,000 to $3,000 per year and increase with complexity. Passive holding foundations may not require this annually, but it is still important to consider the possibility. Planning for this cost helps avoid unexpected increases as structure evolves. Over time, foundations change. Beneficiaries may be added, governance provisions updated, or assets are introduced. These adjustments often require legal input to ensure the structure continues to operate correctly. Some families maintain a modest annual allowance for legal advice. This is not always used every year, but it allows updates to be implemented smoothly when required. This cost varies and is usually treated as occasional rather than fixed. When these elements are combined, a professionally governed ADGM foundation typically operates between approximately $9,000 to $12,000 per year. This includes registered office, compliance support, professional counsel member, and regulatory cost. Simpler holding foundation with limited governance typically fall between $5,000 to $8,000 annually. These structures remain compliant but involves fewer professional roles. The appropriate level depends on the governance needs, complexity of the assets, and long-term objectives. A succession planning structure with multiple beneficiaries usually require stronger governance, while a simple holding foundation may operate efficiently with minimal involvement. An ADGM foundation should therefore be viewed as a long-term planning vehicle rather than a one-time transaction. The annual cost supports governance, compliance, and legal integrity across jurisdictions and across generations. So if you want our help and would like to explore whether an ADGM foundation fits your situation, you can request a personalized asset protection plan by clicking the link in the description below. That's it for today, and I will see you in the next video.